A new development in a years-old mystery, the disappearance of Natalee Holloway, the promising young student who vanished into thin air while on a high school graduation trip more than 12 years ago. Her father has been conducting his own investigation for years. Now, could he be on the verge of finally getting some answers? Here's my Nightline co-anchor, Juju Chang.
It's the bombshell breakthrough.
Hello, and welcome to Crime Time with the EZ. Yes, the King. Where we turn criminals into the roaches that they are, and then stomp on them, or make them disappear. Shit. Okay, now, awkward pause as I try to recover and pretend that didn't happen. Anywho, in the world of unsolved mysteries, there are cases that capture our collective imagination. Stories that leave us searching for answers, yearning for justice. One such enigma is the baffling disappearance of Natalee Holloway, a young woman who vanished without a trace. Join us as we delve into the chilling details surrounding this haunting mystery. It was the year 2005, and the island of Aruba was known as a paradise for sunseekers, a dream destination for tourists. But it was here that Natalee Holloway, an 18-year-old American high school student from Alabama, would embark on a journey that would end in a nightmare. On May 30, 2005, Natalee arrived in Aruba with a group of classmates to celebrate their graduation. Little did she know that this trip would be her last. On the evening of May 30, Natalee and her friends headed to a popular nightclub called Carlos and Charlie's, a place where tourists and locals mingled. Inside the vibrant atmosphere of Carlos and Charlie's, Natalee danced, laughed, and enjoyed her time with her friends. As the night wore on, she was seen leaving the club in the company of three young men, Joran van der Sloot, Deepak Kalpo, and Satish Kalpo. Joran van der Sloot, a Dutch student living in Aruba, was the last person known to have seen Natalee Holloway. In subsequent interviews, his statements would vary, and suspicions would be cast upon him as the investigation unfolded. As the sun rose on May 31, 2005, Natalee Holloway was nowhere to be found. The search for her began, engulfing the island in a frenzy of media attention and desperate pleas for her safe return. Back in Alabama, Natalee's family anxiously awaited news, holding on to hope while grappling with unimaginable fear. As days turned into weeks, the investigation took unexpected twists and turns, revealing a web of deceit, conflicting testimonies, and unanswered questions. Aruban authorities, along with assistance from the FBI, spared no effort in the search for Natalee Holloway. The island's beaches, dense vegetation, and even the ocean depths were scoured, but no trace of Natalee was found. Beth Holloway, Natalee's mother, became the face of a desperate plea for answers. Her unwavering determination to find her daughter inspired people around the world. The case dominated headlines, fueled by a relentless media frenzy and a public hungry for answers. The search for Natalee Holloway became an international obsession, drawing attention to the island of Aruba like never before. In the years following Natalee's disappearance, Joran van der Sloot would become a central figure in the investigation. Despite multiple interrogations and changing accounts, no concrete evidence linking him to Natalee's disappearance could be established. The case reached a turning point in 2007 when Joran was arrested but later released due to lack of evidence. In a shocking twist, Joran van der Sloot found himself embroiled in another high-profile crime. This time, it was the murder of Stephanie Flores Ramirez in Peru. Joran was arrested and eventually confessed to killing Ramirez. He was sentenced to 28 years in prison. Throughout the years, Natalee's family never gave up their quest for answers. They tirelessly sought justice and closure, creating a foundation in Natalee's name to assist families of missing persons and advocate for improved safety measures. Dave Holloway, Natalee's father, continued to explore every lead and possibility. In 2017, a major breakthrough occurred when an informant provided information about a potential location of Natalee's remains. An extensive search operation was launched, involving forensic experts, cadaver dogs, and advanced technology. The search focused on a remote area of Aruba, where it was believed Natalee's body might have been hidden. After days of meticulous searching, a startling discovery was made. Human remains were found, raising hopes that finally, the truth about Natalee Holloway's fate would be revealed. Forensic experts meticulously examined the remains, conducting DNA testing to determine if they belonged to Natalee Holloway. The world held its breath, awaiting the results that could bring long-awaited closure. In a poignant press conference, Beth Holloway, still hopeful but prepared for any outcome, shared the heartbreaking news. The remains found did not match Natalee's DNA. The search for answers would continue. The mystery of Natalee Holloway's disappearance remains unsolved. It stands as a haunting reminder of the depths of human tragedy and the relentless pursuit of justice. The search for the truth continues as the memory of Natalee Holloway lives on, forever etched in the hearts of those who loved her.
A new development in a years-old mystery, the disappearance of Natalee Holloway, the promising young student who vanished into thin air while on a high school graduation trip more than 12 years ago. Her father has been conducting his own investigation for years. Now, could he be on the verge of finally getting some answers? Here's my Nightline co-anchor, Juju Chang.
It's the bombshell breakthrough in a 12-year mystery. The disappearance of Natalee Holloway, the 18-year-old who vanished while on a high school graduation trip to Aruba.
The mysterious disappearance of an American teenager.
The people closest to her are not giving up.
Her body was never found, but now her family is saying a private investigation has yielded stunning results.
I was shocked out of my chair when the guy said they were human remains.
Human remains that could belong to Natalee, now being tested in the United States. Her father, Dave Holloway, hopeful this explosive discovery could bring solace to his grieving family, or even at long last, justice.
It sounds like this feels like the closest you felt to solving your daughter's murder.
Yeah, I'm hopeful, but then again, I have to have the reservations because...
You've had 12 years of heartbreak.
Yes, a lot.
The revelation, one of a 6-part series, The Disappearance of Natalee Holloway, which premiered last Saturday on Oxygen.
I never dreamed it would be 12 years.
Many saying Natalee's parents were victims of an investigation botched from the start by Aruban authorities.
Little did they know, they weren't just looking for a kidnapper or a killer. They were up against the whole Aruban government.
Do you feel the Aruban authorities handled the investigation well?
No, because they took their eyes off the last 3 people that were with Natalee.
Including Joran Vandersloot, the son of a local judge in training, the godson of the police chief at the time.
Joran Vandersloot enjoyed every privilege, every protection conceivable under the Aruban justice system.
Vandersloot now serving 28 years in a Peruvian jail for the killing of a different woman. Holloway was a fresh-faced 18-year-old with a dazzling smile and a college scholarship all lined up, forever frozen in time in that now haunting senior portrait.
She was a goal setter, and she knew exactly what she was going to do in life.
She had a very bright future.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
On Thursday, May 26, 2005, she and 124 fellow graduates arrived in Aruba. Their nights are said to have been full of partying and excessive drinking.
The beach was a blast. I had the best time of my life.
Just after 10 p.m. on their final night, Natalee set to return to Alabama the next day, captured on this hotel casino surveillance tape. A witness, Natalee's classmate, speaking publicly for the first time.
I remember seeing Natalee in a white car, driving away. The window was rolled down so we could see it was her in the back of the car. My impression was, oh great, she found a ride back to the hotel.
It was the last time her friend saw the smiling blonde.
The phone rang, and it was my son. He said, Dad, Natalee has missed her flight back home. Things just ran through my head. I said, she's never late for anything, never. Knowing her, I thought something bad's happened.
Aruban authorities initiated a search, her parents making emotional pleas for information.
My beautiful, intelligent, and outstanding daughter.
Suspicion soon zeroes in on Dutch native Joran Vandersloot. Interrogated by the police, Joran admitted He'd taken Natalee to this beach in hopes of having sex.
We were touching each other, and I ended up, she put her hands in my pants, and I put my hands in her pants.
But Vandersloot's story kept changing. At first, he told her parents he dropped Natalee off back at the hotel. But when pressed by police, he claimed he left her alone on the beach. Still, when Chris Cuomo spoke with him in early 2006, he was adamant he was innocent of any wrongdoing.
Did you kill Natalee Holloway?
No.
Did you harm Natalee Holloway?
No.
In a 2008 hidden camera investigation by a TV crime reporter, then 20-year-old Vandersloot admitted he knew what happened to Natalee and said he watched her die.
I just think that I'm incredibly lucky that she's never been found. Because if they found that girl, I'm in deep.
But he later recanted that confession. Vandersloot has maintained his innocence. In July 2005, racked with questions and few answers, Dave Holloway hired private investigator TJ Ward, seen here in Oxygen's new series.
I have a picture on my wall in my office of Natalee Holloway. I put it up when I got it in 2005, and it will remain there until the resolution of this case.
Years later, that new lead.
Dave got a phone call from an individual who said that he had a roommate that started talking about Ron Vandersloot and said that they were running around together in 2010. He was telling me things that were not public. We did an 18-month undercover investigation. So you all start putting all this puzzle together, and I told Davis that something was there.
A man named Gabriel had come forward and said, I'm living with this guy who says that he knows where Natalee's remains are.
Do you believe the information he's told you?
It's 100%.
Cameras follow the winding and complex search. They encounter John Ludwig, who tells them something they've never heard before.
Did he go with you to dig the remains up?
Yes.
Did you do something with the remains?
Yeah.
And what'd you do? Tell me the truth.
Ludwig says that Vandersloot told him how he committed the crime. Later, Ludwig says he even helped him hide the remains, allegations that have not been confirmed by ABC News.
They pick the spot, digs a hole, puts her in, covers her up, and his dad goes, grab that cactus, and that would just cover everything up. And his dad goes, don't you ever tell nobody, nobody. But he told John.
Dave and his team go on the hunt, eventually recovering some evidence. He now tells ABC News that lab results confirm they are human remains. But Aruban authorities seem to contradict their claims. The public prosecutor saying during an investigation by police, we found remains, but they were found to be from animals. Now, even more questions over whether the remains were illegally taken out of Aruba, and if so, could they ever be used as evidence in court?
This one is by far the most credible lead that I've seen in the last 12 years.
Why do this on television so publicly?
I've been involved with the media throughout this process because if we hadn't, we'd have been at home twiddling our fingers 12 years and we still have nothing.
But skeptics are already wondering about the timing.
Can you address some of the skepticism that this is, all for show, this is all for TV?
I don't know. I don't know that there's skepticism.
We didn't do this because of the show. We did this, and I did this because of his family and bringing closure to them and prosecuting those who were responsible for Natalee Holloway's disappearance.
If the DNA test is positive, where do you put that in your mind, in your heart?
It will be the end of a long, long journey, but we're not there yet.
Vandersloot, the man so many believe was responsible for the disappearance of Natalee Holloway 7 years ago, has now confessed to the 2010 murder of another woman in Peru. This comes a day before he's scheduled to be sentenced in the case, and ABC's Andrea Canning is here with the details and what is at stake. Good morning, Andrea.
Good morning, George. And a lot of people are finding this story outrageous based on his defense. Joran Vandersloot's attorney told 3 female judges who heard Joran's case that he has a type of post-traumatic stress disorder, hoping to get him a lot less than 30 years behind bars. What made him snap? Joran claims the stress associated with the Natalee Holloway investigation drove him to murder. Showing no emotion, Joran Vandersloot admitted to killing 21-year-old Stephanie Flores, telling a packed Peruvian courtroom, "Yes, I want to plead guilty. I wanted from the first moment to confess sincerely. I truly am sorry for this act. I feel very bad." Protesters outside the courthouse called on a harsh punishment for Vandersloot, but his attorney offered a reason behind the killing, saying the extreme psychological trauma Vandersloot experienced in the Natalee Holloway investigation drove him to murder. To this day, the 24-year-old remains the prime suspect in her disappearance.
Vandersloot is hoping by coming forward now and admitting it, but saying I was enduring all of these psychological issues at the time, that he'll get a significantly reduced sentence.
5 years to the day Natalee Holloway disappeared, Vandersloot strangled Flores. This surveillance video shows the pair right after meeting in a casino in 2010. She was later found dead in his hotel room. Vandersloot can be seen leaving on his own. After the murder, he fled Peru and altered his appearance, but was captured 3 days later in Chile. He reportedly claimed in a confession that he killed Flores in a fit of rage because she found information linking him to Holloway on his computer. ABC's John Quinones attempted to ask him about it.
Was your confession done willingly? Can you tell us that?
Vandersloot's attorney is now hoping the argument that his client suffered from the stress of the Natalee Holloway investigation will get him a much lighter sentence in the Flores case.
There's a lot of pressure on these judges to impose a tough sentence on Vandersloot. I'd be very surprised if these judges offer him a really lenient sentence.
And Beth Twitty, Natalee Holloway's mother, released a statement to GMA last night saying our thoughts and prayers are with the Flores family during these extraordinarily painful and public proceedings. We hope they find some measure of privacy, inner strength, and peace as time goes by. Tonight, Natalee Holloway's family hoping to finally get some justice for the 18-year-old who was on a high school graduation trip to Aruba when she vanished in 2005.
There is still no sign of American Natalee Holloway.
In a case that made headlines around the world, Jorn Vandersloot, who police say left a club with Natalee the night she was last seen, can now be extradited to the U.S. To face federal charges, he tried to extort $250,000 from the teen's mother in 2010. Vandersloot was never charged in Holloway's disappearance, but is currently serving a 28-year sentence after pleading guilty to killing Stephanie Flores in Peru on the 5-year anniversary of Holloway's disappearance. That country's new president now agreeing to the temporary extradition. Joyce Vance is the former U.S. attorney who signed Vandersloot's indictment back in 2010.
Without a body, a murder prosecution wasn't possible. It may never be possible. But this is still a form of justice for Natalee Holloway.
Vandersloot is accused of offering to tell Natalee's family how she died and where she was buried in exchange for the money. Authorities say he was given an initial payment of $25,000.
He took her attorney to a site he said the body was located at, but the body wasn't there, and he subsequently acknowledged that in emails.
An attorney for Vandersloot tells the Associated Press they will fight extradition. But in a statement, Natalee's mother, Beth Holloway, wrote in part, the persistence of many is going to pay off. Together, we are finally getting justice for Natalee.
The main suspect in the 2005 disappearance of Natalee Holloway is finally being extradited to the U.S. The Peruvian government agreeing to temporarily hand Jorn Vandersloot over to stand trial for allegedly scamming Holloway's family. Holloway was last seen with Vandersloot before she disappeared on a high school graduation trip in Aruba. Fox Nation host Nancy Grace joins us with an update on the case. Why now? How is this happening at this point with him being the prime suspect for so long?
Well, it's like this. In 2001, an extradition treaty was agreed upon between Peru and the U.S. Under that extradition agreement between the two countries, a defendant who is already serving time for another offense in Peru can be temporarily extradited to the U.S. on other charges, and that is what is happening now. 5 years to the day after the judge's son, Jorn Vandersloot, murdered an American sweetheart, Natalee Holloway. 5 years to the day after he murdered her, he then murdered another young woman he met in a casino, his MO, modus operandi, method of operation, and murdered her, Stephanie Tatiana Flores. He goes to jail in Peru where he's living the high life. He's got sex, drugs, alcohol. He's even fathered a child behind bars. All right, that's what's happening over there in Peru. Now he's coming to the U.S. to answer up on charges not for the murder of Natalee, but for extortion. It's more than a scam. He extorted Natalee's mother. I spent time with her in Aruba, and she described literally falling on the ground at the foot of a cross by the road. Filthy, begging, trying to find her daughter, screaming to heaven, where is Natalee, when it hit her that Natalee had been murdered and was dead. She was never coming back. And then he had the gall to try to extort her, asking for $250,000 in exchange for what really happened to Natalee, and to lead the mother to her remains. That POC I'm looking at right there tried to bleed money out of a murder victim's mother.
Tonight we're learning the prime suspect in the disappearance of Natalee Holloway has been attacked in prison in Peru. His lawyer says Joran Vandersloot was badly beaten by members of a prison gang. He's serving a 28-year sentence for another murder, and he's expected to be extradited to the U.S. on extortion charges stemming from the Holloway case. His lawyer is now asking for Vandersloot to be moved to another prison.
Joran Vandersloot, one of Peru's highest-profile inmates, injured during a brawl in one of the country's most violent prisons. His lawyer telling CNN, "It was a fight among some inmates and my client got involved when he tried to defend his friend." Vandersloot is in prison for killing a woman in Peru 13 years ago today.
I want to give a sincere confession.
And the prime suspect in the shocking disappearance of American Natalee Holloway exactly 18 years ago today, May 30th, 2005.
Still no charges against the sole remaining suspect.
18-year-old Holloway was last seen alive with Vandersloot during her senior trip to Aruba in 2005, but he denies killing her.
He knows exactly what happened. He knows what, where, when, who, why, and how. He knows the answers.
Last week, in a letter to his lawyer, Vandersloot said, "I want to go to the U.S. to face charges not for murder, but for allegedly extorting thousands of dollars from Holloway's family."
We just feel like that if we just keep working hard and we just keep hanging in there, we will have answers.
Natalee's parents have remained relentless in their pursuit for answers. In 2010, a $250,000 reward for information was offered. Vandersloot stepped forward. According to legal documents, he would reveal the location of Natalee Holloway's body, the circumstances of her death, and identify those involved in return for a payment of $250,000. The Holloway's attorney went with Vandersloot to a home in Aruba, and a $25,000 down payment was given to him. Once there, Vandersloot pointed to the residence and said that Natalee's body would be found in the foundation. Vandersloot emailed the Holloways after fleeing to Peru, saying he had lied about the location of Natalee's remains. Surveillance video from a Lima casino shows Vandersloot gambling. It is believed with the $25,000 he got from the Holloway family. There he met the daughter of a prominent Peruvian businessman, Stephanie Flores. Hours later, she was dead.
I am truly regretful for what I have done.
Vandersloot admitted to the violent murder and was sent to prison. Now headed to the U.S., but still no answers as to what happened to Natalee Holloway.
Nearly 2 decades after 18-year-old Natalee Holloway's disappearance in Aruba, the prime suspect in the case is set to face charges in the U.S. as her family awaits justice. Peruvian authorities have now agreed to a temporary extradition of Joran Vandersloot to face prosecution in the U.S. for the alleged commission of the crimes of extortion and fraud, stemming from Holloway's disappearance in 2005.
It's fairly extraordinary for another country to temporarily give up a prisoner to the United States. It would have taken a fair amount of negotiation between U.S. authorities and Peruvian authorities.
Vandersloot, a Dutch national from Aruba, is currently serving a 28-year sentence in Peru for another crime, the murder of Stephanie Flores, who was strangled 5 years to the day after Holloway disappeared. Vandersloot confessed to killing Flores. ABC's John Quinones later caught up with him outside prison.
Was your confession done willingly? Joran, can you tell us that?
Vandersloot, now 35, never faced charges in Holloway's disappearance. Her body was never found, though after months of searching, an Aruban judge declared her dead. In 2006, he spoke to ABC News.
Did you kill Natalee Holloway?
No.
Holloway had traveled to Aruba from Alabama on a high school graduation trip. She was last seen leaving a bar with Vandersloot, but never made it home. Her parents immediately went to Aruba to search for her.
I know in my heart that we are going to find Natalee.
I just feel like I have to be out there looking.
U.S. prosecutors say Vandersloot demanded $250,000 from the Holloways in exchange for information that would lead them to her remains. They wired him $25,000. Prosecutors claim he then knowingly took them to an incorrect area where he claimed her remains were located. Now, knowing that Vandersloot will be facing those charges in the U.S., Holloway's mother says it has been a very long and painful journey, but the persistence of many is going to pay off. Together, we are finally getting justice for Natalee. Vandersloot should be in the U.S. in the next couple of days. Under the extradition agreement, he'll eventually be returned to Peru to continue serving his sentence there.
Now to the prime suspect in Natalee Holloway's disappearance nearly 20 years ago. We're learning new details about when Jordan Vandersloot will be on U.S. soil. Ariel Rushev has the latest. Good morning, Ariel.
Good morning to you, George. Joran Vandersloot's attorney is set to be in court today, vowing to try to keep him in Peru, where he is serving a nearly 3 decades-long sentence for murdering another young woman. But the Peruvian ambassador overseeing his extradition telling us it is imminent.
This morning, officials say Joran Vandersloot, the suspect in the 2005 disappearance of Alabama teen Natalee Holloway, could be extradited from his prison cell in Peru to the U.S. within days.
We are working to do it as soon as possible. We are defining some details of this process.
But Vandersloot's attorney telling ABC News he will fight the transfer in Peruvian court today. The U.S. pushing for the move since January, and the Peruvian ambassador overseeing the extradition telling ABC News both countries want him to face justice.
This individual has caused a lot of sorrow, not only in the U.S. but also in Peru. So it's time for him to face also the charges he has here in the U.S.
Holloway vanished in Aruba during a school vacation nearly 2 decades ago. The Dutch native currently serving a 28-year sentence in Peru for murdering another woman, 21-year-old Stephanie Flores. Vandersloot slated to be transported to Alabama to face federal extortion charges from 2010 for allegedly demanding $250,000 from Holloway's mother in exchange for information about where her daughter may be buried. Aruban authorities say Vandersloot was the last person to see Holloway before she went missing.
Yeah, the last time I saw her, she was sitting on the sand by the ocean.
He spoke to ABC News in 2006 and denied killing her. Her body was never found.
And the ambassador telling ABC News that his country and the U.S. are partnering on this extradition and that Vandersloot will be transferred from that prison in southern Peru under Peruvian security. The ambassador also says once Vandersloot faces justice here, he will return to Peru to serve out that sentence there.
The new development overnight in the case of an American woman missing for nearly 20 years. The prime suspect in the disappearance of Natalee Holloway now set to be extradited to the U.S. this weekend. ABC's Elwin Lopez has more on this case that's captivated the country for so many years. Good morning, Elwin.
Hey, Janae, good morning. It's been nearly 2 decades since Natalee Holloway was last seen, and now sources telling ABC News that the transfer process for the main suspect in her disappearance, Joran Vandersloot, was put into motion overnight. Now, those same sources telling ABC News that the 35-year-old was being moved from a maximum security prison in southern Peru to a prison in Lima, the capital, before making his way onto American soil, and that could happen as early as next week. In Peru, he has been serving a 28-year sentence for the murder of another woman, Stephanie Flores. Now, here in the U.S., he is set to face fraud and extortion charges in Alabama from 2010 when he allegedly demanded $250,000 from Holloway's mother in exchange for information leading to where the teen was buried. Authorities in Aruba say Vandersloot was the last person to be seen with Holloway in 2005. It was the last night of her class's high school trip. Now, when that rare extradition with Peru was first announced last month, Natalee's mother, Beth, saying in a statement, "It has been a very long and painful journey, but the persistence of many is going to pay off. Together, we are finally getting justice justice for Natalee. And guys, Holloway's body was never found. Vandersloot was never charged in her disappearance.
What did you think about the video? Please comment below, and please keep all involved in your prayers.